Welcome to another episode of Content Creators Unite, the show where we discuss all things content creation. If you want to learn how to grow your business using your blog, newsletters, books, and more, you are in the right place. I'm your host, John Clements. Our guest for today's episode is Dennis J. Henson. Dennis is a real estate investor, educator, and author of Real Impact Daily Inspiration. With over 50 years of experience and a passion for personal development, Dennis empowers individuals to take action, grow daily, and create a lasting legacy of success. So, Dennis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here today. So, before we dig into your book, which I really want to get into, can you just share a little bit about your background, kind of how you got to do what it is that you do?
When I finished college, I became a band director. I have degrees in music education. And after doing that for a while, my goal was to become a college band director. And so I was offered the position at Georgia Tech. And the day before I had the contract was prepared, I looked it over, it looked great. The day before, I received a call from a company in Tennessee that said, we've reviewed your resume and we want you to interview for a position. And I said, well, no, I'm not interested. I've got the ultimate position. I'm going to be a college band director. And they said, well, look, if you'll come up here, we'll buy you a round trip ticket, give you a $25 cigar, buy you a steak, pick you up in a limousine. And I couldn't turn down the round trip ticket. I thought, I'll just go up there and tell them no. And they flew me up there, picked me up in a limousine, bought me a steak and offered me a cigar, which I don't smoke, but it was the biggest cigar I'd ever seen. And I still wasn't really interested until we talked money. They offered me 20 times the salary for
Wow.
the day. And I decided I would take that. So that was in 75, and that got me into business. That was my entrance into the business world. And I've been an entrepreneur ever since, been in a number of businesses. And so when I moved to Texas, I've been investing in real estate for a long time. When I moved to Texas, it was like a kid in a candy store. There's so much real estate and it was just easy. So I was making a good living, but I wanted to become a better real estate investor. So I decided I'm going to go and visit real estate investing groups and meet the other investors. Unfortunately, there wasn't a real estate investing group in Arlington. There was in Dallas, there was in Fort Worth, but the Dallas Metroplex is not a small place. So to get to Dallas, if there wasn't traffic, it was an hour. If there was a traffic, it could be 2.5 hours. And same way with Fort Worth. So to make a long story short, I started a group in Arlington. And people came from all over. I mean, it was very successful. And I thought, well, I still need to become better. So I'll start teaching classes. So I taught advanced classes. If I wanted to learn about land trust, I would schedule an elite class on land trust. And then I had a month to learn everything there was to know and be able to answer everyone's questions. So it helped me become a better investor. One day, one of the members came up and said, Dennis, I'm going to retire and I want you to mentor me and I'll pay you. And I said, well, I'm really busy with my real estate and in this group, and I really don't have time to do that. I think I'll pass. And he said, you didn't understand. I'm going to retire and you're going to mentor me. So he said, let's go out to eat. We'll talk about it. So once again, I was shaking my head. No, I told my wife, I'm not going to do this. And after we ate, he reached in and he had a coat like this. He reached in and pulled out a checkbook and he handed it to me. And he said, here, fill this in. And I said, the amount? And he said, yeah. And so I thought, I'll fix him. I'll put an amount here that I know that he will not pay. And then I gave it back to him. And without even looking at the amount, he took the check out, signed it, and handed it back to me. He didn't even know how much it was. So that's when I started teaching.
I guess so.
So I thought, well, if people are going to pay me this kind of money, I better be pretty good. It better be a pretty good course. Well, I have a master's degree in education and almost a doctorate. So I was able to put together a good training class. And my students became super successful. I mean, they were just blowing it away, so much so that I became known for my students. And so I was invited to speak at all kind of real estate groups throughout the nation and in other countries. I mean, that's what started my speaking career. So podcasts were just getting started, and there was a real estate podcast that had me on, and the host said, Dennis, what makes your students so successful? He said, there's all kind of mentors out there, but your students just seem to really blossom. And I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. If they can form good habits, they will become successful. Then he said, well, what's the number one habit? Can you share that? What's the number one habit that you would have my listeners? And I thought for a second, and I said, have them form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves them toward their goal, which would be real estate in that case. So after the podcast was over, I thought, that was really a good answer. Wouldn't it be great if someone could come up with a tool to help people form habits? Because habits are not easy to form. Your subconscious don't want you to form a new habit. It's happy with the habits that you have. So then it hit me. I've been saving powerful motivational books for 50 years. And with the students, I put together success stories so that they could read and, get motivated and pumped up. And the same way with quotes and poems. And I thought, well, if I put all these in a book, people can read every day regardless of the time. If they have 5 minutes, they read a poem. If they get home and they're exhausted, they forgot to read, they can read a quote, go to sleep thinking about something really positive. Or if they have 3 hours, they can read up from one of the books that's listed in the back. So this was in 2018. I started working on the book. I thought 2 months, I'll have it done. I worked on it every day for 6 years. It was published last year, and it's on Amazon, and the reviews started coming in because it's kind of scary. You work for 6 years on something, you put it up, and you think, well, what are people going to think? Well, I would challenge everybody that's listening to go and read the reviews, because that really tells the story. It's life-changing. It really is a book that can put you on a different path. So your goal doesn't have to be real estate. It could be to become a veterinarian or to become an engineer, whatever you want to do. If you read something positive that moves you in that direction every single day, it reminds you every day of the direction. So it's a double whammy. I mean, it not only teaches you and educates you, it reminds you every day of what it is that you actually want and helps you get there a lot faster. So long answer to a short question.
No, that's great. Yeah, and actually leads into kind of what I want to talk about, which is there's basically three main elements of this book. There's daily habits, there's basically developing a growth mindset, and then there's staying motivated, inspired. So I do we've talked about habits. We talked about reading as an important habit, which I totally agree. And more over reading something positive, not like doom scrolling the news. But so what is it about daily habits that really makes them so powerful? Like how does it change my life to have good habits?
Actually, your whole life is already habits. You got habits whether you know it or not. John, I've never met you before. We talked a few minutes before the podcast, but I know this about you. When you get up every morning and get out of the bed, you do exactly the same thing you did the day before. Maybe you go get a cup of coffee, maybe you wash your face, maybe go to the restroom. I don't know what it is, but it's the same thing because you're groggy and you're working on cruise control. You don't have to think. It just happens. Well, what you don't realize is that that's not the only habit. Then you go and do the same thing again. You go to breakfast, and then maybe you go to your office, and then maybe you have lunch, and your days are just a day after day after day of these habits that you form. Well, why is that important? Well, they're the direction your life is going to go in. If you have success habits, there's a lot of books that are coming out now Uh, Atomic Habits, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, Think and Grow Rich is about habits. I have a list of books in the back of Real Impact Daily Inspiration that I've read over the past 50 years. And I just collected the most powerful ones. And almost all of them deal in some way with how powerful it is to form success habits. So, anyway, I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I appreciate your point of it's almost, that you're doing these things and you're not really even paying attention to what you're doing. So if you can take the time to reorient them in a way that will drive you towards success, it's just going to get so much easier to do that.
Right. I looked up the definition for habit, and it's something you don't think about. You do it without having to think about it, like your heart beating. That's a pretty good habit to have, and breathing.
Agreed. So what's reading is a great reading for success is a great habit. Are there any other particular like habits you could give me and our listeners like, hey, these are the top 3 or 5 or whatever habits that I would say work on?
Well, the most important thing is probably your health, are pretty close to the top, because if you're not healthy, nothing else matters. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's important that you have habits to stay healthy. You know, I, I got I had a really bad incident back in 2018. I had a stroke, and it was really bad. And when I came out of the hospital, I couldn't see, I couldn't walk, and I made it a goal to become healthy. And so I started studying every single day about what makes people healthy, what makes them live long, what makes them feel good. And my goal was to look normal, feel normal, be able to walk. And, I walk every single day, and I take supplements. Um, but I think probably one of the things that helps more than anything else, which is a daily habit, is taking the G vitamin. And if you don't take the G vitamin, then you should start, because it's going to really make your health a lot better. It'll lower your blood pressure, uh, improve your attitude, make people like you better, make you more successful. And the G vitamin is gratitude.
I had a feeling that's what it was.
So if every day you start your day off by listing all of the wonderful things that you have, that you're alive, that you have a wonderful family, that you like your dog, you love your office and your staff, then your day just goes so much better, because you cannot be depressed and you cannot be worried as long as you're being grateful. It's the antidote to all of the bad things.
Yeah, I've definitely learned that in my own life, to just be like, literally to even be grateful that I woke up this morning, like, because not everyone did.
Yes.
This is a gift, right? Yeah.
One of the things, when I have a speech, sometimes I'll start it out talking about the old TV show, The Millionaire, where John Bears for Tipton gave someone $1 million. And I'll ask the audience, I'll say, well, what if I decided today that I was going to give you $1 million? How many of you would be happy to take that? Of course, every hand goes up. And I say, well, in the show, there was one string attached. You couldn't tell anybody that you had the money, or you got the money. So there is one string attached to me giving you $1 million, and that's this: you won't wake up tomorrow. You'll have $1 million, but this is your last day.
Mm.
How many people would take that deal? Of course, oh, no hands
Thank
go up.
you.
I want to say, well, when you get up in the morning, are you going to thank God for this new day that you just paid $1 million for yesterday? Well, you should.
Yeah, that's a really powerful. I'm gonna steal that probably, just so you know, because that's a really powerful thought experiment. I think, my family's gonna hear that tonight. I think at the dinner table. So what would you say to someone though? So one thing about habits, especially, well, specifically good habits, it's really easy for some reason to start bad habits. Good habits are a little bit more difficult. What would you tell someone who's struggling to either start or maintain habits? Like, well, how can they deal with that?
Habits are like, Well, if you have a garden and you want to have nice, fresh vegetables from your garden, then you always have to go in and take out the weeds. If you don't take out the weeds, they will take over your garden. That's what Jim Rohn always said. The weeds are going to take your garden, and anything good's always going to be attacked. So you realize that in your life. If I don't place good things in my life, bad things will automatically take over. Well, now that you know that, you can do something about it. But it's something that you have to consciously work to improve. So if your life is not what you want it to be, you need to first decide, what do I want it to be? That's like, if you get the Real Impact book and you use the magic formula in the book, the very first thing, there's a picture of a lamp on the front of the book. Let me see if I have the book right here. Okay. See the lamp? That's Aladdin's lamp. And on the back it says, you probably heard the story of Aladdin. The young man came into possession of an old lamp, and when he was cleaning it, he realized if he rubbed it, it had magic powers, and he could have pretty much anything he wanted. But the first thing he had to do was say what he wanted. So that's where the magic comes in. It parallels life. If you know what you want, and then you move every day, form the habit of moving every day in that direction, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish, the different things that, well, in the book, there's a lot of stories. Like there's a story in the book about Lou Holtz. Now, Lou was a failed football coach at the University of South Carolina and got fired. And he was an assistant coach. His head coach said, you just don't have what it takes to be a coach. You need to go find something else to do. Well, Lou wanted to be the coach at Notre Dame. Well, being the coach at Notre Dame is not an easy thing to get, especially when you just got fired. You're not successful. But it didn't affect his, he still wanted to be the coach at Notre Dame. And the story takes you through the trials and tribulations where he ended up being the coach, which is almost like wanting to be the Pope. And it's about the same, about as hard to become the coach at Notre Dame as it is to become the Pope.
Yeah.
But he did it, and it tells you how he did it. And he was kind enough, after I wrote the book, to send me a letter and say, thank you for including me in your book. And I really cherish that. He's a quality person. And coming from an Alabama fan, that's really saying
Right.
really saying something.
Well, so let me ask you this though, because I can hear people saying right now, okay, Dennis, that's great. Lou Holtz did that, but Lou Holtz is not, he's way better than I am, or he's special, or he's different from me. Like, well, how do you help someone kind of overcome this fear or this idea that, well, I can't do it, I'm not good enough?
I'm working on another book. I've been working on it for 50 years, called The 7 Secrets of Success. And the very first secret of success is getting your mind right. You have to know what you want. You have to believe that you can get what you want. And you need to develop a burning desire to get there, so that nothing's going to deter you. That's what Lou Holtz did. Nothing is going to deter you from getting that. And if you get knocked down and you lose everything and you go bankrupt, like so many people in the book, you just get right back up and move in that direction again. So the answer is here. The answer is, you have to change your mind. If you think you're beaten, you are.
Yeah.
There's a poem in the book that says, if you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you don't think you can, it's almost a cinch that you won't. So that's a really true poem. And it's true in life. So if you want to change your life, change your mind. That's the number one secret of success.
Yeah. I actually learned that when I was in college, because I ran cross country and track in school. And I learned very quickly that you can defeat yourself and lose the race before you ever get to the starting line.
Right.
And conversely, you can actually set yourself up for success if you have the right mindset. So I ended up beating a lot of guys in the race that on paper should have beaten me, but I had a better mindset. So like I can attest that that does in fact work, at least in my life. So what would you say though? I guess I'm curious about this. Like I agree with everything you're saying about mindset being key, and developing habits. But when we're talking about success, I always kind of wonder how much of success comes down to luck. Like, what are your thoughts on luck? What role does that play?
Well, luck happens when you're prepared. You, the more prepared you are, the luckier you get. Um, some people are just lucky. Some people go and buy a lottery ticket and they win millions of dollars. But that's not most people. Most people don't have that kind of luck. You make your own luck. You know, if by knowing what you want, then you've changed your luck. You're 90% there by having a definite purpose. So if you read the book Think and Grow Rich, he says there's this book's going to give you a secret. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you read the book, it's going to give you the secret to success. And I'll just go ahead and tell you. So when you read the book, you'll already know it's this. You have to have a definite purpose and a burning desire. If you have those two things, you're almost unstoppable because there'd have to be someone out there that didn't want you to get those two things and they're too busy worrying about their own stuff. So, you can see it in sports, the determination of young people. There's a story in the book about Rudy
Hmm.
who wanted to play again at Notre Dame. He wanted to he wanted to suit up in in the blue and gold. He wanted to wear that golden helmet and go out on the field and play. The only problem was he was short and stubby. He had bad grades. I mean, there was everything in the world was against him. He didn't have any money. He was from a really big family, and they were very poor. And the trials and tribulations that the guy went through to actually get to play on the field with Notre Dame is just amazing. But if you pattern yourself after people like that, what you can do is amazing. It doesn't matter who you are. You know, you can see people that if you look at them, you think, they can never be successful. You see this with actors a lot. You look at them, how did they ever become successful? Look at them, yet they're really famous. Well, they knew what they wanted and they went after it. And you can do that too. Anybody can.
Yeah, I think I always like hearing from people who have met succeeded at their goals, and they're just regular people. I love watching interviews of uh, usually famous musicians in my case, and it's amazing how many of these guys and ladies, they didn't know they were going to become famous. They just knew they wanted to make music and were going to do whatever it took to make music, and that's what happened.
Yeah. I went to school with one of the members of the Alabama group, the country group,
Yeah, yeah.
Alabama. Um, and he was being he was being interviewed by a reporter one time, and the reporter asked him about Alabama's overnight success. He looked at me and he said, "What are you overnight success? Where were you when we were going to bars and having beer bottles thrown at us, and three people would show up?" you know, and we did that for years and years and years, and now you're talking about overnight success. So, success is not always going to happen to you immediately. It's like a stairwell. You have to take a step at a time, and if you just keep taking the steps, eventually you'll get to where you want to go.
Yeah, I totally agree. And as I'm in a band myself, and I have played for three people, and they were all drunk, and it was yes, but you do it anyway because that's part of the journey.
Right.
So yeah, it's been great. Just I love talking about a success mindset. I try to develop it in my own life. Um, of course I could always be better, but that's the goal for me too, is to know my why and to take steps every day to make it. So this has been a great conversation, but I do want to take a step back and just ask you, Dennis, when you're not working or writing your next book on success, like what do you like to do just to kind of relax?
Well, I met my wife at a ballroom dance. We love to dance. Now that, you know, at the age that I am, we don't dance as much as we used to, but we do travel a lot. I just got back from Cancun day before yesterday. So we love to travel. It's a lot of fun. But John, to tell you the truth, I really don't work. It's all fun to me. One of the quotes in my new book is, work is doing something that you don't particularly like to do. So I really don't, I mean, I call it coming to work, but I really enjoy it. It's almost as much fun as getting the rest, although you need the rest sometimes, just, you know, to relax and get your mind off of it so you come back and hit it harder. But anyway, that's the answer to that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm really glad you enjoy what you do. I've worked in jobs where I didn't enjoy what I did, and it's not the way to go. I like what I do too. So I'm happy that we can share that. So Dennis, last question for you to kind of wrap up. If people want to learn more about you or go pick up a copy of your book so they can have a success mindset as well, where can they go?
Well, if they go to realimpactbook.com, I'd like to give them an ebook copy of the Real Impact Daily Inspiration. And I'm doing this for two reasons. You think, why would you give your book away? Well, the two reasons. One is I didn't write it to make $1 million. I wrote it to help 1 million people. And if you don't have it, I can't help you. So if you go to the website, scroll to the bottom where it says podcast attendee, click on that, put in your email address, and it's an instant download. If you don't have it in 3 seconds, then there's something wrong. Just, contact me or contact us, and I'll make sure you get the book. The other reason is this. When you read this book, you'll know, well, this is the kind of writer that Dennis Henson is. And so when I have other books to come out and you think, oh man, I like this book, maybe they'll purchase one of my other books. So that's the ulterior motive. So there's also a link there if you want to help the children. It's a GoFundMe. Every penny that's donated, we spend it on these books to give to disadvantaged communities, to young kids, to help them change their lives. So any donation would be appreciated. But I hope you'll get the book. I hope you'll read it. I hope it changes your life. And I hope that you'll think of 5 people that you can give it to that will help them. Maybe maybe they're going to graduate from high school or college this year. They're not sure. Maybe there's someone struggling with their business or they're a salesman. When you read it, you'll know the kind of people that could benefit from it. And I hope that you'll think about it the next time that you think, well, what could I give to this person that's inexpensive, but it would really be powerful.
That's cool. Yeah. And so we'll have a link to your website in the show notes. So you can, again, folks who are listening, they can go get that book immediately for free. What a great deal. And help out some charities as well. And just spread the word. So, Dennis, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed our discussion today, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I bring on the best experts I can find, just like Dennis. I get them to share their secrets with you, literally in this case, so you can grow your business and your mindset. With that, have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Content Creators Unite podcast.